Welcome to today's episode of Funnel Vision, where we talk all things full funnel marketing, life, liberty, and the pursuit of an optimized media plan. I am very excited about today's guest, one of my favorite people in the world and the director of CRM and automation at AdLeverage, Gianna, aka Queen G. Simonelli. How we doing, Gianna?
We're doing fantastic, AP.
All right. Love that you're here with me today. So much to talk about. I feel like CRM and automation, it's one of the most misunderstood disciplines in digital marketing. And I think that so often when we're talking about email marketing, when we're talking about automation, people think sending a happy 4th of July email is email marketing. And they think they can DIY that together through constant contact and that they're set, right? That's why I feel it is so misunderstood. And there's such an enormous missed opportunity when it's not done the right way. So when I throw that out there and I say, what are some of the misunderstandings within the CRM conversation? What is actually involved in running a healthy CRM and automation plan?
I mean, I think there are some really key stuff there. First of all, being that your CSRs, your techs, your employees are well-versed and trained on the platform itself. I think that's critical. One thing that we are constantly doing is advising our CSRs of their clients and the techs on the best ways to use the platform, the most effective ways to use the platform. Speaking from our personal perspective as SMEs, I think another key thing to do is to be constantly looking at your campaign cleanup, making sure that attribution is always set. And we do that through both yearly and monthly audits where we're checking your different platforms to make sure phone numbers and campaigns are correlating correctly and reducing the friction that your employees are having within the CRM.
All right. So, Gianna, one of the things that you just said that I want to make sure that we take a moment to address is you say that this goes beyond the CSRs into technicians and understanding what their role is in this process as well, into salespeople, understanding what their role is in the CRM process as well. That's not something that most business owners or marketing directors are going to intuitively think about. But why do you think that it's important that it goes beyond just the CSRs and into the technician and salespeople's role to really understand how this all comes together?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you an example of an issue we're dealing with right now where, for example, in the Service Titan CRM, we have techs who are creating multiple opportunities under one customer. And we're trying to build audiences and segmentation around this, but the processes are they're breaking essentially. Because we're targeting an opportunity through an open estimate, but there's multiples, and they're not lining up, and we're including this one, but they're getting excluded from the audience, even though they do require being reached out to and having an estimate reminder sent to them. But because they were dispositioned in this certain way under this completely, totally separate thing, we're having a difficulty targeting them. So processes and how they can break down are integral to us building audiences and automations and everything like that.
Okay. So you're saying that the process in the field can be just as important as the process in the office, and us being able to segment audiences and build a consistent experience, which is what we're trying to do with CRM and automation, is build the best possible experience with the business. You're saying that in somebody in the field operating differently than the next person in the field, then the next person in the field can cause major, problems, opportunities lost, gaps in that experience that are really difficult to identify unless you properly train.
Yeah, you nailed it. And hard to identify if you don't have that knowledge either of how to go back into the CRM and understand really why and fact check all of this and say like, okay, this person should have gotten an estimate. Why didn't they? And then going through that customer record and figuring it out.
Right. So you're saying that the inconsistency in the field not only leads to a lackluster customer experience potentially, but leaves a hell of a lot of money on the table because, the basic automations and the basic follow-ups that they should have after that appointment just aren't happening.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That is crazy. And that leads right into the hidden cost of DIY CRM management. And I think we actually went through some very specific examples of how that happens. But is there anything else that you want to add there before we move on about some of the hidden costs or maybe lost opportunities when people think that they're going to just kind of handle this like any other DIY project?
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to what I had said very first, which was like attribution breakdown. That is another thing that can absolutely happen through just processes not being followed. People changing things when it doesn't need to be changed. Like in some instances, we're telling the CSRs do less in order to reduce that friction of like, we don't want them to become Columbo. We don't want the CSRs to have to go looking for where this customer came from, what phone number did they dial, where did they originate from. In the marketing process, where did they come from in their journey? What is first and last touch attribution? Like, we want them doing less of that.
Right. They shouldn't have to hunt. They should just do the basic best practices, and then we do everything else that we need to really build a proper customer journey from there.
100%.
Love it. And I think, one of the beauties of this conversation and of proper CRM management is the consistency, right? Like you want every single customer to have not only the best experience possible, but also the experience that creates the most opportunities, right? So for our multi-trade clients, those that are offering, electrical and plumbing and HVAC, or, fill in the blank, they can leave so much money on the table if they're only relying on the technician in the home or potentially the CSR to be the one doing that cross-selling and upselling. So talk to me about the importance of that. Talk to me about the importance of an automation process or a CRM management process that really puts that best cross-sell and upsell foot forward.
Yeah, I mean, having marketers that have been doing this for years and years, like everybody on our team is whether you're talking about my department or any other department, we're extremely well versed in what we do and the strategies that go into customer outreach, whether it be retargeting or, it's a brand new customer or, you're looking for lookalike customers that are identical to your existing audience. I think that all of that feeds into exactly what you're saying. It's definitely it takes strategy and it takes knowledge and it takes experience. And business owners just don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. You're doing so many other things and managing so many other people, and you have all these hats that you have to wear as a business owner. You can't possibly be spread that thin and then be effective at the same time.
Right. Yeah, no, it's really impossible. I see some of these poor marketing directors that are expected to be experts in 7 or 8 different types of digital marketing. And I'm just like, look, in today's environment, it is absolutely impossible to expect an expert in Facebook, an expert in Google, an expert in CRM and automation services, an SEO expert. That's all the same person, right? Like it is completely impossible.
It's truly impossible. I've tried to do it for small businesses before. And working at Ad Leverage totally changed my perspective on that. It's just not possible. And not in this day and age, maybe 10, 15 years ago, but in modern today marketing, you can't be an expert at PPC and be an expert at CRM management.
Right. And I think that, the funny part about it is when we're talking about CRM and automation as a discipline independently, a couple things immediately come to mind for me. If you are not properly campaigning within your CRM from the digital marketing platforms to the CRM, going beyond the channel level down into the nitty gritty of the campaign level, which you may have 15, 20 active campaigns running in Google or in, a search platform or through, various other channels for an individual channel. So we're talking about hundreds of individual connections that are being built between the ad platforms and their CRM if it's being done properly with clarity or with the intention of clarity and the intention of scale. And I think that is just one part of it that when clients come to us, they know things are being campaigned into one huge bucket, or they're not sure of exactly how things are being campaigned. But from our analysis, we quickly find out that not only are they being campaigned into one, let's say, digital marketing bucket, but beyond that, they have organic sources being mixed in, paid sources being mixed in, to where if you're trying to actually scale your marketing, you don't stand a chance, because you have no idea. You have no idea where the real revenue, the new customers, where the real opportunities are coming from if you don't start with that foundational connection between every independent campaign within the channel and your CRM.
Absolutely. We just onboarded a client was bucketing, and this might sound familiar to some of our viewers. They're bucketing everything into a campaign called Previous Customer. And it's the notorious existing customer campaign that we are always seeing when we perform our audits for new customers. And 92% of their revenue over the last 365 days was bucketed into this, with a 15% to 20% error rate of if they were even existing customers or not. So it just goes to show you that like tracking is everything. And the biggest piece of managing your CRM that we are constantly monitoring as SMEs is that tracking. It is that campaign to phone number, campaign to UTM parameters check that we're doing every single.
Yep. And for those of you out there that were unsure, SMEs is subject matter experts. And so a big part of what we are trying to do in the early phases is set our clients up for clarity and success, undoing so much of what was done previously to really be able to very clearly identify, who's actually done business with us before, put them in the right bucket to build the right experience to really maximize the value of that customer over time. And if you don't understand what your split of previous and new customer revenue is, previous new customer jobs, the breakdown of how much a previous or new customer is spending with you, those things are crucial to building a forward-facing plan that actually makes sense as it relates to how many jobs you need to put on the board from new customers, what service line, what needs, what each individual service line needs in terms of the amount of new customers necessary based on the average ticket for that service line to hit the goal that you're trying to hit. And so if these fundamental connections are not built, not only are we not going to have clarity, but the downstream effect of that is that clarity is the only way you can build a truly scalable plan to get where you're trying to go from a revenue perspective. So now a lot of people think that individual email blast, Gianna, like that one blast per month constitutes consistency and constitutes, a good customer relationship management best practice, right? What would you say to that? When you see so many companies come to us and bless their heart, they're trying, they are sending out that one monthly email blast and they kind of bucket it as, the way that they communicate with their customers, but there's obviously so much more to it from your perspective. What comes up for you when I throw that out there to you?
So consistency is absolutely key. But I think it's really a balance. It's a balance between automating your emails and really targeting that segmented audience of, we need to get a relevant message out that's extremely personalized to these 50 individuals versus let's send out a blast saying, happy 4th of July. And then the other thing that comes to mind too is that I really think that when we're sending out these emails, we need to have more intention to them on these one-time blasts. If you don't have anything particularly to say, then you shouldn't say it. It's kind of like almost organic social now, where it's like you need the content. The content needs to be there. A 4th of July blast saying, hey, happy 4th of July isn't enough anymore to get people's attention. There's about 20 other people who made the same exact email blast as that and sent it out at the exact same time at 9 a.m. as you did on 4th of July. You have to differentiate yourself in the inbox. What are you doing to make your email different than the other 5 people who are also, subscribed to an email, that same email? And what do you have to say that's different? We need to say something more than just happy 4th of July, happy Memorial Day. Whether it's a promotion that you're doing, or whether you're talking about your referral program that you may have, or if you're just sending out to members, we need to be more intentional with our messaging for email as we move forward into 2027, 2028, and onwards, because there is so much competition in the inbox.
And one of the things that, it's a great call out, but one of the things that I love about how we, build our teams is that when you are working with Ad Leverage, you have somebody that is focused on building that value, building that educational piece, building that promotion, but then ensuring that it goes out across all platforms and, ensuring that it is on organic social and paid social and TV, if it makes sense, and radio, if it makes sense. And, we are using it for, OTT, programmatic, CRM, you name it. The message is consistent across all platforms. Now, when we're talking about being able to, I think, build the consistency is what we said previously with that customer relationship. It goes beyond email. And I think that's where they get stuck when they're even thinking about how to use their database. So much of it is either email or text message. And, sometimes, a lot more email than text, or sometimes a lot more text than email. But I think one of the most interesting things that we can do as not only marketers, but then in your department of CRM and database management is, how does their database inform the other channels?
That's huge. And one of my passion points of when I worked at other small businesses, and you just touched on it perfect, is having that consistent messaging across all channels. And using the data that you have. The data that you have in your database is invaluable. And you already know that as a business owner. You may have not realized it, but you know it in your heart to be true.
Right.
And that data can be absolutely used cross-platform. We want to take that super important data and all of the data points that create these super valuable lists, and we want to pass that to your paid social rep. And we're going to tell them, like, whether they use it as an exclusionary list because they're building something at the top of the funnel where they want to bring in brand new customers and not talk to your existing customers, or they're using that list as a lookalike audience to create more audiences off of. These are things, this is thinking 4-dimensional. This is a 4-dimensional plan that we're putting into place for you when we're working with these other teams. And it's why it's so important to getting back to the whole point of this show, right? That you create that full funnel experience. And it all starts with the database that you absolutely already have, that invaluable group of people.
Right. And I think that when to your point, whether it's remarketing to a current database, there's there are platforms that we utilize that we build a one-to-one relationship with your club members, a one-to-one relationship with the people in this zip code or that zip code, or that have used this service and you're trying to flip to another opportunity for a different service. And if you're not using your CRM data to cross-sell and upsell current clients, as well as new client opportunities, and building the start to finish experience, you're leaving so much money on the table and not leveraging the full power of your database.
100%.
Yeah. So what are the things that you see? What would you say the biggest difference makers, Gianna, when somebody is, I know we've said, so many people do it themselves, and we've established the fact that they leave a lot of opportunities, a lot of revenue on the table. They know they should be getting more from their database, but they're not sure why they don't have more, repeat business, and why they, can't get them to, utilize other services quicker. But what is the experience like when you go from, having your marketing manager or office manager or the owner trying to do it themselves, and they come to you and they say, okay, Gianna, blank canvas. What are the things that you are going to do, and why? What are the most important things that, true CRM professional, true, customer relationship management and automation professionals such as yourself and your team, what are the biggest differences? What are the most key things?
So I would say the biggest key thing is we're going to brand everything. We're going to make sure that every single email matches your tone, your branding, and everything else, every other piece of material, of marketing material that is out there already on the internet. We're going to match your website. Your buttons are going to function exactly on the email, how they function on your website. We're going to create that real mental connection for everybody who sees that email and is the reader of that email, and that the tone that they're reading of that email is exactly like what they read on your website, is exactly like the ad that brought them into your database in the first place. It's just creating that consistent experience throughout the entire customer journey. So that's number one. Number two is there are a bunch of things that we as email marketers look out for that are big red flags that we often see missing from emails. The biggest one that I see missing from emails is your privacy policy. That's huge. with the now presence of AI in everyone's inbox, whether it's your phone or your laptop, whichever you're checking your emails from, AI now exists in there, whether it's Gemini, whether it's Apple Intelligence, all of it. Those are scanning your emails before they even hit your inbox. As soon as they're coming in, those emails are being scanned. And if they're looking at the copy and saying, okay, this is an advertisement from a business, I can determine that. And they don't see a privacy policy and they don't see a can spam policy. And God forbid they don't see an unsubscribe link. You're going straight to the spam inbox. You're getting marked as spam. And that email is never hitting that main inbox ever again.
Right. Yeah. So I think deliverability is a huge one also, right? Like being able to ensure that we're building a solid, consistent relationship, but that we can also still deliver to inboxes. And we've seen it so many times and hear so many horror stories of domains that essentially just get blacklisted, and you're on a slow boat to China to try and get, any emails from that domain to hit inboxes again. So yeah. And I think, I always think, from my perspective, there are so many litigious individuals out there as well, where not only do you run the risk of not hitting inboxes, but then there's just liability, right? I think if you're not doing things the right way in your customer communication, and if that's not being handled in an above board manner, you run a lot more risk than going to junk mail, right? So
100%. When we're talking about SMS, especially, like there are very specific timeframes in which we consider the times in which you can SMS. And oftentimes we see people messaging people at 6 a.m.
Right.
The likelihood of someone opening and it being responsive at 6 a.m. is very low, like from a logical perspective.
Yeah. So you're very likely to get a different message at that time than the one you're looking for to book an appointment, right? All right. So for everybody out there that is doing some form of email marketing, text message marketing, remarketing, database segmentation, all of the things that we've covered to this point, what are some of the things that they should be asking of their marketing manager, of their office manager, or of their current automation or CRM partner that you would say, hey, these are the checks and balances that we believe in to be the right checks and balances to ensure that person's doing a good job?
I mean, there's definitely, I would make sure that they were a professional email marketer at some point in their career, for sure. That's definitely a really important piece, knowing all of those policies and different laws and different things that come into play with the TCR and all the different entities that are out there, making sure that people are following the rules. Now they need to be well versed in that.
Sure.
So they need to have some experience in email marketing previously. The other thing that I would say is critical is that they understand that how the logic of audiences work. I can't tell you how. There was a client just today. It took me an hour and a half to clean up their database because they had 50 open estimate emails running all at the same time, all to the same audience, with bad tracking numbers, because they were just trying to do it themselves. And they weren't turning off ones as they were creating new ones. So again, it's these best practices that just need to be followed. And if you have not had any kind of professional emailing background, you just don't know. It's not your fault that you don't know. It's just that it seems really easy as a business owner to say, I can just hire a copywriter. I can just hire somebody on my team to do it. But
I think even now, not to cut you off, but I think now it's more, I can just have ChatGPT or Claude or insert new LLM here. I can just have that take care of it and I'm good.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just there are just so much that goes into actually building a good email that isn't just writing the copy and then building, and then sending it to a giant audience. There's so much more that goes into it.
Yeah. And I know, we're kind of ending on, spending time on email here, but I think as we've established, managing a customer relationship should be so many more touch points, and the consistency in building a proper customer relationship management, I'd say sequence or we call it an ecosystem, right? Like understanding how all of that needs to come together, how one channel feeds the other, how one screen feeds the other, and what, building that ideal flow, that ideal relationship, the ideal timing of cross sells and upsells, and ensuring that we're building a real relationship and not just being transactional, right? I think is just such a big part of it. And I think anybody out there trying to use ChatGPT or, insert, latest LLM flavor of the day here, they just don't have that context. And I think that the missteps that we see when people are trying to use AI to replace, so much of this work, don't get me wrong, it can enhance it, it can support it, it can help in a lot of ways. But I think the misstep that we still see is the proper understanding of the entire ecosystem, the proper understanding of what a relationship should feel like with that brand, with that tone, with that voice, where you stop selling and just keep informing, where you entertain, how often you do these things to build the kind of a relationship, with a company that people want to do business with. So there are just some things there that I feel at this point, a human touch and the overall strategic guidance that you and your team provide is just still such an invaluable piece to building the right customer experience and the most consistently human and genuine customer experience, which I think is just the most pivotal piece to all of this.
Absolutely. People can look at an email copy and they can determine if they're smart enough now to determine if that was from ChatGPT or, like you said, insert whatever flavor of the day LLM is. People are smart enough to look at it and know.
Right. Even my 13-year-old and her friends, they don't even say that's fake anymore. They said, bro, that's AI. Bro, that's AI. Like that's what, that means fake. They're not even talking about like actual written text from an email or something. They'll just say like, oh bro, that person's AI. Like they'll just literally like, that is what fake is to them. Right. So you got to be careful.
Yeah. And that's very polarizing when it comes to, any kind of copywriting.
All right. I love it. So awesome conversation today, Queen G. What are one or two, I guess, final thoughts that you would give to the viewing audience at home that wants to generate more from their database, that wants to build that awesome, authentic customer relationship management system or ecosystem? What are one or two final thoughts from you there?
I would say going back to the funnel. It's not about the top of the funnel. It's not about the middle of the funnel. It's not even about the bottom of the funnel. It's about all parts of the funnel. You need all of those channels, all of those verticals, everything working in tandem in order to create that experience. And having professionals at the beginning all the way to the end, that's an unbeatable combination. You're going to win every time.
I love it. We're all trying to generate more opportunities from our database. We all want to see more revenue coming from folks that we've already done business with. Gianna, you are the best in the biz at making that happen. So thank you so very much for hanging out with me a little bit today on Funnel Vision. And to the viewing audience, thank you so much for your time. We hope you learned a little bit. We're so excited that you were with us on today's episode of Funnel Vision. We'll see you next time.